In early 2020, the world shut down. Stores, restaurants, schools, and whole communities shut their doors in an effort to protect human life. As the world quickly changed, one man went on Facebook to get a degree in internet epidemiology. Bryan, along with his lab assistant Hoadley, are curing coronavirus by commenting on fake news and reposting recipes of secret virus cures from a friend of a friend who works high up in government. Join Bryan and Hoadley as they discuss the world and life during this forced interruption, learning, laughing, and loving in this real-life commercial break.
Good morning, GW Zoo, home of the Tiger King Meats a Pizza, featuring Walmart meat. You buy the best, we'll take the rest. How can I help you?
Hello, my name is Emma Denise Whitmer, and my daughter Carly Ray is having her 3rd birthday party next month.
Oh, they just so precious at that age, ain't they?
Oh, you know what? She just started prep school about 2 years ago, and she's already won 6 Little Miss Missy pageants.
Well, how wonderful.
Oh yes, we're so proud of her nanny, her tutor, and her pageant coach. They've been working so hard. We're so proud of them. Anywho, I was wanting to bring her and about 30 of her closest friends in my red wine and reading group to the zoo so we can get close to those adorable tigers. We just want to teach the children about conservation. We feel so bad about what's happening to the animals in the wild.
Well, conservation is exactly what we do, so come on and spend some of that extra jingle-jangle here.
What kind of experiences can we have?
Well, now, darling, let me give you a menu of the current Big Cat surprise birthday parties we have this month.
Oh, please do.
Okay, we have the Look But Don't Touch. For $50, you can look at the tiger, put your head in its mouth, and if you tag us on IG, I'll give you an extra 10% off.
Oh, she'd love that.
We have the Rub and Tug. For $75, I'll let you hold the tiger cubs for an extra 2 to 4 minutes.
Oh, Rub and Tug, I've seen that on my Amex. It's where my husband gets his massages.
Then we got a real special one. I call it the Vein with the Mane. For $125, your daughter can do a mani-pedi on the tiger cub, and I'll let you dress it up like an American doll. Pictures are 100% free.
Oh my gosh, they're into the American dolls at this age, aren't they?
For $150, we'll allow you to tie the tiger cubs together, tail to mane,
Ooh.
and wear them like a necklace. It's so cute. The Real Housewives of Atlanta that did this last month for the Botox party, the pictures turned out wonderful.
Well, I'll tell you what, Botox is the secret to a long-lasting marriage.
We have the Pokemon Go. For $200, we'll let you dress the cub up like a Pikachu and allow your daughter to run around and capture it.
Oh, they're following that Pikachu everywhere, aren't they?
For an extra $300, we'll let you shave off its mane and take it home as a souvenir. It really is the gift that keeps on giving.
Oh, don't you believe it. The kids, they love it.
And today I got this special. It's called the Hug and Shriek Surprise. We'll dress your daughter up like a deer and allow her to run around and hide, play with the big tiger Zumbaba.
Oh my.
He's about 62 years old. We've been keeping him in the back. He's only got 3 legs, so usually the children win the game. And we feed them beforehand so they usually ain't too hungry.
Well, this all sounds delightful. How do I get signed up?
Oh, you're so precious. I tell you what, let me connect you to Candy, and she'll set you all up.
Okay then, bye-bye.
Have a good day.
On this episode of The Commercial Break.
When you have a child, anytime is sleepy time when he's also asleep. So directly after this, I'm going to go to bed. I feel for them. I really do. I see their side. I see the point. I see everybody's point. All these people that are protesting being locked down with masks on, right? I get the point. You don't want to be locked down. You don't want to be in a depression. Economically, you don't want to suffer. Physically, socially. However, it's not about you.
You know, USA. Like, what does that even mean? Like, what? Okay. Why are you chanting that?
Yeah, okay, USA. Yeah, we got the most cases. We have the most deaths. USA. Congratulations. We can't get masks. We don't have ventilators.
Yeah.
USA.
Warning: the commercial break contains strong language and common sense. Listener intelligence is advised. The next episode of The Commercial Break starts now.
Have I used Instacart? Of course. Like, we're using Instacart. Yeah, we're using Instacart all the time, but the fucking problem is we can't get an appointment.
Really?
My wife is on like in the middle of the night, and Astrid is like checking because people will like drop off Instacart. Another appointment will come available, or I think what's happening is that new Instacart shoppers, they jump on and say, well, I'm going to decide to shop tomorrow between 9 and 11 for other people. And so they grab on it. It's getting an appointment with Instacart. I feel those are the people that, like, I feel really bad for. They're in the stores constantly. They got to be, first of all, they're saving
extra
lives.
well. Maybe that's why I'm getting my orders here.
Do you, like, wash your groceries?
No,
We
don't
do.
wash
We
the
wash
groceries.
everything.
Well, I read on NPR they had a whole little section thing on it, and they're like, "Ew, don't
Fake
really
news.
have to-
It's
you
all
can
fake
if you
news.
want." We've got Clorox wipes. We kind of try and wipe stuff down, but
Yeah.
we're not fanatical about it. And then we just wash our hands and then pop open a boozy seltzer that just had delivery.
Pop in a hot toddy and I get in the bathtub and I take my coronavirus and go fuck yourself.
I did take a bath earlier.
I'm drinking a sleepy time tea in my Mickey cup. You see that?
Why are you drinking a sleepy time tea in the heyday of your afternoon?
When you have a child, anytime is sleepy time when he's also asleep. So directly after this, I'm going to go to bed. I'm thinking about feeding Matthias NyQuil for breakfast.
Yes,
It got me thinking, like, I wonder what the teenagers are doing.
sounds like a great idea.
I don't know, dude. Probably could get arrested just for saying that. I wonder what the teenagers are doing. This sucks for us, right? It sucks.
Yeah.
There's nothing about this that anybody wants. No one wants. Like, I miss hugging. I miss going out for brunch. I miss just my daily routine of getting out of the house for a couple of hours.
Yeah.
And it sucks for me. But my 20-year-old self or my 18-year-old self, I think this probably would have been like mass depression, because at 17, 18, I don't know, 15 to 20, it's like when everything was happening. I was learning about everything. Like, I was exploring sexuality and drugs and parties and all this other stuff. Like, it's hard to get to third base when you can't even leave home. You know what I'm saying? So I mean, what do you do? This has got to be the hardest
Our
on.
teenagers are taking it in stride, actually.
Are they really?
I mean, they really are.
Do tell.
Well, technology. So they've got the phones and the movies and the Netflix and all of the things to watch. And then, they're finding creative ways, I think, to hang out with their friends and, do little things here and there.
Are they like locked in? Is it like
they're baking a lot, which we're totally enjoying, and I've gained 10 pounds from, but it's good.
I got the Corona 20.
Yeah.
I've put on the Corona 20. No doubt about it. Yeah,
I
stress eating, late night eating.
Yeah, exactly. There's no schedule at this
No.
point. In fact, what day is today?
Yeah, what time is it? I have no idea. It's all bleeding in. I'm like watching Netflix till like 4 a.m. and waking up at 10:15. And I have no responsibility, even though I technically still have a job, but I'm like, can we move that call till noon?
Yeah.
What are they in though? Are the kids in?
They're in.
They're in. Like lockdown central. So Jeff has
in.
managed to convince them. You and Jeff have managed to convince them that this is it. You guys, you're not allowed to go out. We don't want you sick.
Yeah, I mean, we have convinced them of that, and they're doing it on their own too. I mean, they're just kind of like, we can't. I mean, they're taking it seriously, which I'm happy because of it. We're not having to like fight them and tell them, you can't go out.
I feel like they're the exception and not the rule, because I've been reading a lot about parents who are having I was reading something, and I don't even know what magazine or news article it was, but it was a mother talking about her 3 sons who are all in their teenage years of, between 16 and 20 years old. And none of them are taking this with any degree of seriousness, right? They're all, we won't get it. It doesn't affect the young people. And she can't stop them. She can't stop 2 of them, at least. They're over 18 years old. And so they get in the car and they go visit their friends, and it was an article about, and the boy was talking about how he was going down to the river to, do a cookout and have a bonfire with 20 or 30 of his other friends. I feel for them. I know, it's a thing.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. I feel for them. I really do. I see their side. I see the point. I see everybody's point. All these people that are protesting being locked down with masks on, right? I get the point. Yeah. You don't want to be locked down. You don't want to be in a depression. Economically, you don't want to suffer physically, socially. However, it's not about you. Like, okay, maybe you're missing out on some, I don't know, some backseat making out and all this other shit that the teenager prom and whatever. But it's not about you. You may never get sick, but it's not about you. It's about me.
You should be spreading it all around to other people. Spreading it.
Is coronavirus a sexually transmitted disease?
If you can have sex from 6 feet, ma'am, congratulations.
I heard about the naked Zoom parties.
There's naked Zoom parties?
Yes.
This is what the teenagers are doing, is naked Zoom parties?
I don't know. I think it's anybody who can get on Zoom.
Hey, listen.
Whatever.
I can think of a few of our friends who are probably going to naked Zoom parties. And I imagine it's not the center of hotness we imagine it to be in our heads.
Right.
It's like a nude beach.
It's not like the Playboy After Dark channel. This is like real people with real bodies.
I was listening to a recording of one of the spring breakers that was down in Florida for spring break. And what an idiot that kid sounded like. We all remember that kid who was like, I ain't going to get no coronavirus. It's all made
He's
up.
He's like, if I get it, I get it.
Yeah, you ain't going to stop me for spring break. I'm down here getting laid. I'm going to get me some pussy. Right? With a Bud Light in his hand. And then like 2 days later, apologized. And his grandfather died of coronavirus. And now in Florida.
It's a real deal.
It's a real deal. And now in Florida, they are actually opening the beaches back up. And this is all happening all over again, right? Everyone's crowding the beaches. And it's mainly young people that are down there in huge crowds. And the police, there's only so many people that you can have on a beach to man it to break people up. So I know it's week 372 of the quarantine or whatever it is. But I don't know. We don't have a better defense against this, and maybe I never get sick. Maybe if I get sick, I don't die. But I just don't think it's about me. I think it's a selfish way to think. That's me personally. The girls, though, right? The girls, are they like?
Yes.
Are they dating? Is this a problem in their dating lives?
No. They don't. No,
they don't date, so it's not an issue.
They're not like in the serious dating phase with anybody currently.
What about prom? Are they like missing prom or?
Yeah, they're missing prom. They're missing spring break. They're missing graduation. So
there's no graduation.
and they go to this camp. No graduation as of right now. They're talking about either postponing it to the fall or maybe even doing like a drive-in movie graduation. Where people can like pull up and then they're gonna have the
like a Zoom call
screen. Like on the screen they would somehow coordinate this like at a drive-in movie situation.
That's fucking crazy. And then no graduation parties.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
I feel like everything's just like it's the name of the podcast, commercial break.
Yeah,
it's a forced pause right
now. Full stop.
We watched the thing. Did you watch the thing last night? The One World concert thing.
I watched a little bit of it. I didn't get I know that it was going on. I saw it online, and then it was
really good. It made me cry. We all watched it together, and we're all kind of just like we feel like we're frozen in time. It's just kind of like you have to stay in. You have to just do the essential things that you have to get out, and otherwise you gotta just like ride it out.
Absolutely.
Thank God for
blessings
technology.
in disguise. Blessings in disguise. Yeah. You're spending time with your family, right? Everybody is, if they have a family. I feel for the single people out there, the people who don't have somebody physically in their space. I really feel for that. I got to have a couple brothers that are single, and that part has to be tough. And now you're staring
how's Kevin,
down.
Or how's
Yeah, listen. I've talked to a number of single people, right? I won't get into specifics about one person's life, but I know that that they're trying to wrap their heads around that this is not the 2-week thing that everyone thought it was a month ago, right? We're not all going to stay home. It's going to go away, and then we'll all be able to go back to work. We are looking at, it looks like, from where we're standing right now, 6 to 9 more months of some kind of limited interaction. And that's really sad and difficult for everybody. But for people who are physically alone, I think we as a society, I don't know how we address that, but that's a problem that I think that we're going to have to address at some point. I mean, listen, things like Zoom and phone calls and FaceTime and all that, it's better than 1918, right? You didn't Talk to your mule or whatever it was.
What
you
were
were
they
doing.
I know. It's like when you
Fucking
were in,
sheep.
you were
I'm not even
in.
really sure. Hello there, neighbor.
I mean, maybe you
they
had
kind
like
of social
acres
distanced
of
anyway.
farmland
Yeah,
or
yeah.
something.
They were
You
used to
kind
it
of-
back then. It was
Yeah.
solitude was a way of life back then. Now we're all intertwined. I mean, you hop on a plane and you're around the world in 20 minutes or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Everybody is kind of dealing with it in their own way, but it's the young folks and the single people that I have some concern about, because when I was
And the
17,
elderly
18, 19
that are
years old,
alone.
yeah, that's true
And the
too.
elderly
The
are
elderly
alone.
that are alone.
I mean, Jeff's mom is down in Naples, Florida, and she's by herself, and normally it's such a vibrant, active community of retirees. They go to movies and go to the beach at sunset, beach drinking stuff, and hang out and do all kinds of stuff throughout the day. And now, I mean, they're in. I mean, at least she's down in a beautiful area, but still, it's like the social, the whole social aspect was a big part of that.
So are they in they're in a retirement community, like one of those big, like Sun
Yeah,
City
she's
West
in like
or
a
whatever
high rise condo in like a really nice, area of Naples, Florida. And
My mom's in a senior center, like an apartment building, right?
Yeah.
It's a senior center. It's like a cruise ship, basically.
Yeah.
On
all the activities. And
all
things.
the activities and fed 3 times a day. And, the only bad part is you're stuck with the same passengers until they die or whatever. But
and the good part is the good part is you're not actually on a cruise ship. There is absolutely no way you could even pay me to take a cruise.
Fucking floating Peachtree dish is what that is. I'm never going to go on a cruise again. I'm never going on a cruise again.
I never have been on one to begin with, and so this
we were just on a cruise, and we were just on a Mediterranean cruise in October or September or whenever it was.
You did? I didn't realize you did that.
Yeah, we went on a trip. But I'm telling you what, first of all, it's fucking exhausting. I mean, I have a small child. There's like 30 other family members.
Did you bring
with
Matthias?
We brought Matthias. We had no choice. All our family members went too, which was good because we had some people to watch him. But you stop at a different place every day, and it's not like you're stopping at a fucking island where all you're doing is going to sand and another beer, right? So you can just stay on the boat or go relax or whatever it is. You're going to Rome and all these beautiful places, and everyone wants to go and pack everything in 16 and a half minutes.
It's the Clark Griswold.
Yes.
moment.
Oh my God, it's exhausting. You get on the bus and off the bus and in the car and out of the car and on the boat and off the boat, and every time you're standing in a fucking line, there's not a damn minute to yourself on that fucking cruise. Drove me fucking crazy. But we had lovely company, right?
Yeah.
But now I'm like, and it was really fun. The part to me that was interesting was being on a boat. Being on a boat that big, because it's one of the largest cruise liners in the world, being on a floating thing that big, traveling at 30 miles per hour in the middle of the Mediterranean was a fascinating event for me.
Yeah.
But everything else was a pain in the ass, right?
Yeah.
And so I was already kind of iffy on cruises after our adventure. Listen, again, the family was there. It was lovely, but it's too much with small children, way too much. And now, no fucking way am I going to get on another cruise ship. No way.
Hell no.
It's like
on a cruise.
it's like a
They're the ones that
bioweapon just floating in the ocean.
It is. They're the ones that get all of the stuff too, like all of the
people get
when
the shits.
outbreaks. That happen. That's been going on for years, and then now this. I mean,
I had a friend who went on like a Carnival cruise, and like literally one lady had the shits, and the whole cruise ended up with the shits.
Yeah.
And they were handing out medicine like under the doors. They were putting like, Miralax under the doors or whatever. It's like
no good.
Gross. It's gross.
Just go to the destination.
Yeah, I think that's just a better idea. If I want to go to Rome, I'll spend a couple days there. All right, let's talk conspiracy. It's a different conspiracy theory every week. When will facts, the truth, and common sense be back in vogue?
So what if I told you that what you just heard the president say was proof that Donald Trump is the ringleader of a shadowy cult aimed at simultaneously rooting out the villainous deep state, which has been secretly running the United States for years, as you all know, and a colossal child sex trafficking network? Well, if you thought that was dramatic and spurious, We're just getting started.
Can you give us a question?
Don't be.
Can you give us a question?
I'm not going to give you a question.
Can you stay categorically?
You are fake news.
And then you've got parents laughing, going, and then they walk over to the camera and go,
appeared to have a very large penis in her pants. Her shoulders are wide. Her face is very, very masculine. She looks like a tranny. And so you ask yourself, are the children a beard for Obama?
What is QAnon?
QAnon is basically a shadow civil war between rogue intelligence agencies.
Because if you know anything about Big Pharma and the history of it, the true history of it in this country, you know that the pharmaceutical industrial complex really began by the Rockefeller family. It's often called Rockefeller medicine.
Does 5G cell towers cause the virus symptoms?
But today, I thought I'd talk about one theory in particular. Dinosaurs aren't real.
My reality, my senses tell me that the Earth is flat and stationary.
What's your source on this? A tinfoil hat?
Okay, so every week we like to talk about the next, dumb conspiracy that's out there, and I think the broad stroke conspiracy that's going on is that this is some kind of that the coronavirus is some kind of liberal, made up, fake media, fictitious thing, right? And then you can go like all down the rabbit hole with Bill Gates started it, and the Chinese government and the Americans got together to get Donald Trump so he doesn't get reelected. It's such a bunch of horse shit. I understand both sides of the coin, right? There's a lot of people protesting the lockdown right now. They don't want their freedoms trampled on. They're concerned that the economic disaster is going to be larger than the medical disaster that's going on. So I understand that point of it. I think that anybody with a brain in their fucking skull understands that that's a problem.
Sure. Absolutely.
However, when 2,000 people or 3,000 people a day are dying in the United States from one specific cause, that's a nasty virus that the hospitals can't handle in some places. I think we have to look at the science and pretty much determine
that's a nasty statement, Brian.
Well, listen, I'm just a libtard over here.
Trump, that's what he always says. That's a nasty question.
That's a nasty statement. Why did you say that?
That's a nasty.
Are you a real reporter?
Yeah. Who do you work for?
Who do you work for? Even Fox is fake news now.
Right. Yeah, it's absolutely crazy. I mean, there's no
Who comes up with this shit?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, what's the point of killing thousands and thousands of people and what?
Why would, what's the point? Yeah, I don't get it. I don't get why we're killing thousands of people to make sure that Donald Trump doesn't get reelected. It just doesn't make any sense to me. Listen, like the guy or hate the guy, he's doing a miserable fucking job of handling this particular event. There's no doubt about it. I mean, I've even heard Republicans talking about this.
Yeah, I mean, that's like reason enough for me to be depressed, not much less the whole situation and coronavirus, but the fact that he's the one representing us.
We got shit up. We're SOL on that one.
Yeah. He just, the World Health, he just stopped funding.
He just got the funding for the World Health Organization.
Yeah. Sure.
Because he wants someone to blame, right? Uh-huh. Because he wants someone to blame. And these people want someone to blame too. And I can understand that also. But unfortunately, I'm a passionate pragmatist, right? I'm not a liberal. I'm not a Democrat. I'm a guy who likes to look at common sense. The thing that makes the most sense is most likely true. That's my opinion. Is this a natural virus? I think so. Did it come from China? Yes, it did. Did it get out of a laboratory? I don't know, right? Mm-hmm. Are they overestimating their numbers? Probably, because that's what China does. Mm-hmm. Did Bill Gates start this so that he could put microchips in everybody's eyeball? No, you fucking moron. He did not. They did not. It's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. And you say it once on the internet and it catches fire with people who someone drilled a hole in their head and just started pouring motor oil in there. Like it's so stupid. Yesterday they had a protest in Austin. Actually, all around the country they've had protests. But yesterday in Austin, Texas, a place where you would imagine people like have a head on their fucking shoulders, right? Yeah, I just imagine Austin to be a really like forward-thinking kind of place. Not liberal, but forward thinking, like
I have
common sense
family
people.
there. I've been many times, and it's a super cool town. Yeah.
So they have this protest yesterday, and I
people.
want you to take a listen to. I pulled a clip. I want you to take a listen to a couple of minutes of two different people talking from this protest. Now, obviously, they are against the lockdown, but I want you to hear the way that they're talking, right? And then we'll talk about it.
Okay.
In a second. Hold on.
That's right. Let us work. Let us work.
We're here to protest the lockdown, the closing of businesses, trying to keep people at home, making masks mandatory when all these things are against the First Amendment. We're here to stand against it and try to come together and get our economy rolling again.
USA! USA!
At first I was concerned about safety, just not knowing exactly what was going on with the virus. As numbers continue to come out and we see what this is, and I think about the fear that was instilled in me from the initial shock of the outbreak, and it was too much. I don't even get sick hardly anyways. I'm not going to catch the virus. I'm not rubbing up on people, coughing on people in public. You know, I'm not worried about transmitting a virus that's just like another flu.
Let's talk about this first guy on this video. Yeah. There's so much to dissect here. I don't even really know where to start. But he says that when I think about the initial shock of this, it's just too much. Like, his brain does not compute. Brain does not compute. Boop, 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 boop. Cannot compute. Must be fake. Fake news. Cannot compute big words. Epidemiologist. Too much. Don't even understand the word. Beep, boop, 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 boop.
Oh my gosh, exactly.
Ventilators. Must be fake news. Ventilators made up by Joe Biden. Nancy Pelosi. Overcrowding hospitals. Beep, boop, 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 boop. The fuck? Yeah. It's too much for his little brain to comprehend.
It's too much for my brain to comprehend that he can't comprehend it.
The whole thing's got my brain just stopped like a fucking bike without a chain. I don't know.
Like the movie Inception.
Just because your brain cannot comprehend, none of our brains can comprehend exactly what's going on right now. And that should lead you to believe that this is not a conspiracy, because no one knows what to fucking do. And that's what happens in a crisis, in a real life crisis. No one knows what to do. So you jag or you jig to go to get to the best option you think is available to you right now. Well, there's a fire in your fucking house and everything's burning around you. You know what you do? You look for a hole and you get the fuck out, right? Or you stop, drop, and roll, or whatever they taught you in school. Yeah. You don't have time to think. You just act. And that's what everyone is doing. They don't have time to think. They act the best possible way that they know how. To think this is well thought out by anybody is bullshit, because people are clearly dying. Not everywhere, and not in every state, and not in every hospital, but in large metropolitan cities, they're having a huge problem.
It's moving to rural America now too.
It's going to go
All
everywhere.
These people that were like, "Oh yeah, let's not shut down, whatever." Now it's like up by 50%. I think South Dakota's up by like 250%. I mean, it's just going to keep going on, and I mean,
if you see the video of this. It's a mass gathering. There are thousands of people. This is all started by Alex fucking Jones, by the way, who is just unbelievable. He doesn't believe half the bullshit he's telling people, but he tells people this so he can sell his Z-Max 100 vitamins or whatever it is, his Prostate 3000. Yeah. He keeps telling people the crazier and crazier it gets, the more and more they believe, and I don't think Alex Jones believes a fucking second of it. I think he's like a preacher talking about God and on TV. They don't believe what they're telling you, but they know you're going to believe it, and that's a way for them to make money. The second thing that this guy says is, I hardly ever get sick. I'm not going to get the virus for some virus I don't even know about. Going to come into my nasal passages. It just sounds ridiculous. That's not how you get a virus. You get a virus by licking a toilet or something. I mean, shit. I played down in the river where the old tire company used to dump sludge, and I turned out just fine. Look at my oblong-shaped head. Mama said that's a sign of intelligence.
Precisely.
You fucking dweeble. Listen, just because you don't think you're going to get sick, don't mean it's not going to happen. First of all, right?
Yeah.
I didn't think I was going to be 43, but here I am. I couldn't stop it from coming. It just showed up. I thought I was going to be 21 with a rock hard penis and sexy abs forever. But now I got the Corona got the Corona 20, and I need Viagra. So listen, this guy is the epitome of what's wrong with this type of thinking. Believing that you're not going to get it, believing that it's some made up conspiracy. And I am really sad. I honestly have empathy for the thousands of people that gathered in Austin yesterday, because Austin is a rather big town. They've had a problem in Texas with coronavirus, just like they have almost everywhere else. And someone in that crowd had coronavirus, right? And so you're going to find out in 14 days from now that some of these people had coronavirus. And I feel for that, because I don't want nobody to die, no matter how unintelligent I may believe you are or how much I disagree with you. I don't want you to die from coronavirus, and that's why I am choosing to stay home. It's a clear choice to me, right? Or social distance, or wear a mask, or whatever it is. The other thing about this fucking video is, if you watch the video, it's like half the people are wearing masks. If you don't believe in the coronavirus, why are you choosing to wear a mask? Yeah. And so let's take a look at the other, that part B of this conspiracy. Okay. Which is that this was started to cause economic damage so that Donald Trump does not get reelected.
There is no reason for this shutdown at this point. The disease is not that serious that we should quarantine. We don't quarantine for the flu. We should not quarantine for COVID-19. The psychological repercussions of this quarantine are becoming overwhelming. People have anxiety, they have depression, we have grief, we have guilt, and we have panic. To consider those things unimportant is to only consider one part of the human being, and that is wrong.
Okay, so let's dissect this.
And you are wrong.
Yeah. Let's dissect this cousin of Einstein's theory of relativity here. Right? So this is the other part that gets me, is that she's saying that we don't quarantine for the flu.
The flu.
And she's right. We haven't, but we have quarantined for the flu in the past before. In certain strains of flu, we absolutely do quarantine. H1N1, for example, we didn't have to quarantine because it was not as contagious, and the people who got it showed symptoms immediately, so we were able to identify them and put them somewhere. The Spanish flu, we didn't quarantine. I wasn't around during the Spanish flu, though I feel like it. The Spanish flu was not as contagious either, but they didn't have the type of medicine and the medical capacities that we do now, and it killed 200,000 people in 20 days. 20 days, 200,000 people. That's insanity. And I think it ended up killing like 20 million people. Check my facts on that. I'm not, I only play an epidemiologist on Twitter, but But the other part is, she's like, we need to take a look at the psychological effects of this. And she's like, it causes anxiety and fear. No, you cause anxiety and fear. You're the reason why I'm upset. Because you won't stay fucking home, lady. And by the way, this lady is wearing a mask the entire time during the interview.
That is insane.
How do people not believe in the coronavirus? What is there to believe in?
I don't know. I mean, they must not have known someone or had someone, that close to them this is affected, which thank God I haven't either, but I believe it. There's people dying every day. I mean, I can't even watch the news because of the death toll. I mean, it's,
So you don't know anyone personally that has coronavirus? That has had
not
coronavirus?
Personally.
No.
Besides
no one
Chris
on your
Cuomo.
Facebook, no one like...
Just Chris Cuomo.
Chris Cuomo. Is he your buddy? He's so
I feel like
cute. He's so cute. I know two people who have died. A high school friend of a friend who I met once. I'm not good friends with him. And then a guy who I went to school with, his friend that we used to hang out with when we were teenagers, he passed away too. Both of them had pre-existing conditions. And
That's
here's the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's another reason why we don't quarantine for the flu. And I say it over and over again, and I'm going to say it one more time. We don't quarantine for the flu because the flu does not overwhelm the medical system every year with patients that need specialized care. Period. Full stop. Doesn't matter what the death rate is. If you cannot handle the influx of patients, if one of these brainiacs gets coronavirus 2 weeks from now and shows up at the Austin General Hospital or whatever it's called, and they don't have the capacity to give him a ventilator when he's not breathing, that is the most terrifying thing that I can think of. There are lots of ways to die, but drowning in your own spit is a really scary one. And if you cannot have the kind of medical care that you're accustomed to in the time when it happens, I don't know, Hoadley. I think that for me is like, that's where things really start.
Scary. That's what happened in Italy. That is what happened in Italy. They were having to turn people away from the hospitals, and it's just awful. I can't believe it. I mean, I can't even think, just to be in the hospital and to die alone, too, where you can't have family there. If you can even get into the hospital. I mean, that's,
There's the rub.
There's been plenty of cases where people were turned away from the hospital because they didn't have serious enough symptoms, and
they died days later. Yeah.
It's
and
awful.
In Spain, for a couple of weeks at the beginning of this, in Spain, and I have family in Spain who were there. This is not anecdotal information that I got on some Facebook page. My in-laws are there, some of them, and it's extraordinarily serious there, to the point where they cannot leave their apartments unless they are going to the store at a designated time. And there are Spanish police officers that are arresting people for being out on the street, out on the beaches, in their cars for whatever reason. And the reason why they got so serious about this is because at the beginning of this entire thing, about 2.5 weeks ago, there were people that were dying in the front lawn of their hospitals. In Spain, while it's not the most medically advanced country ever, it's not a third world country at all. They have socialized medicine, and it's very good care. If you had to go to a Spanish hospital on a normal day, you'd be in good hands, right?
Yeah.
But people couldn't get in the door. And so they had to make decisions about who got care and who didn't. And when they were at capacity, they had to turn people away or tell them to sit out front and wait. And people were dying on the front lawn.
Awful.
This is what we don't want. It doesn't take a genius to figure it out. You don't have to believe in it. You don't have to understand where it came from. You don't have to. If you're not going to get it, congratulations. I don't know, what planet you landed on, but congratulations, you're not going to get it. But do us all a fucking favor. Stay
out of the way.
Stay out of the way. Yeah, it's not. And I don't understand why this is a political thing either. It's not a Republican or Democrat thing. Everyone's dying.
That's we were talking about last night too while watching the concert. It was, we were talking about every scientist on this planet right now is trying to come up with a vaccine, trying to come up with a solution. It is all one world, and that was the name of the concert last night too. One world. I mean, it's happening. This isn't politics. This isn't, USA. Like, what does that even mean? Like, what? Okay. Why are you chanting
USA.
that?
We got the most cases. We have the most deaths. USA. Congratulations. We can't get masks. We don't have ventilators. USA.
Yeah, right. It's ridiculous.
Hey, speaking of one world, let's talk about what we're watching.
Oh.
Extra, extra, read all about it. Netflix wins Nobel Peace Prize for the year 2020.
I've been watching so much TV, I feel like my remote control may understand me better than my wife at this point.
And now we come to the thrilling final episode of our radio drama.
So, who's your favorite artist on the One World concert?
Oh, my favorite artist. Well, Casey Musgraves was really good.
She's cute.
She is very pretty, and she did a really beautiful song. It was about rainbows, and we were all crying, and it was really sweet. But everybody on there was great. The Rolling Stones came on.
I saw the Stones. That's one of the acts I saw.
Yeah, they all zoomed in, and of course, Paul McCartney and Lady Gaga. I do have to say I love Gaga. I'm a Gaga fan. I'm
I am a Gaga
fan.
fan.
Yeah,
I have become
me
a Gaga fan. At first, I was like, "Why is she wearing a meat suit?" And
Yeah, but
Singing
her
these silly
career
songs.
so far now has
Yeah.
really come together.
that's the way it happens a lot, right? I think it's
Yeah.
shock value is the way you get on
Yeah.
TV, and then once you got the attention, then you can really let the talent fly. She's talented.
Exactly.
There's no doubt
She's
about it.
very talented.
And I like a lot of her music. I wouldn't be the typical Gaga fan, but
Yeah.
I have to say I like her.
Yeah, absolutely. She's a great actress too.
Can I ask you a question about the Stones?
Sure.
So I saw it, and there are the four of them in their little Zoom call
Yeah.
in, right?
Uh-huh.
And so you've got Jagger. I'm pretty sure he's singing. You've got what's his name, the guitarist?
Keith.
Oh, you got Richards, who's up in the top right hand corner, and looks like he
Yeah.
just took a hit of heroin, right? He
had a
doesn't. He looks
fear.
completely lost in the song. I think they turned him down at one point. And then you've got old
Ronnie
Charlie.
Wood.
Well, you've got Ronnie Wood down there. He was holding it. He's holding
He
his
had a
own.
palm tree. He had a
Yeah.
palm tree in the background, like inside. It was like, whoa.
Of course he did.
Of course he did.
And you got Charlie Watts down at the bottom.
Yeah.
And
He
Charlie
was
is
drumming
like
the
playing
beat.
on a box, right?
He was.
But
He was like-
but that's not what they were broadcasting. They were broadcasting like an actual drum set, and he kept hitting the couch and making a cymbal sound. It looked like my son when he's playing the drums. He was just kind of playing all over the place. I think Charlie Watts he's a little strange. You know, I met the Rolling Stones. Did I tell you this
Wow.
story?
No.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll tell you
Told
this
me
story.
your Rolling Stone story.
I was working at a business in downtown Atlanta, and we had an office down on Mitchell Street, which if you don't live in Atlanta, Georgia, or even if you do live in Atlanta, Georgia, you may not know where Mitchell Street is, behind the Georgia Dome, which everybody knows are Mercedes-Benz Stadium now, and it's a street that's got a huge building on one side, and on the other side, it's like a brownstone building, 4 or 5 stories tall, and then it's got retail on the bottom, and then this building has been around since like the early 1900s. So upstairs are, back then, were just some renovated like office space, but I mean, you know, like big old open spaces where the people were doing whatever. And so there's some
Loft
technology,
type thing.
technology companies that were there at the time, and the place where I was working. But in the middle of that brownstone, in the middle of that small street that's about, I don't know, 1/10 of a mile long, there's an old hotel with one old hotel marquee, like a old neon sign out front, right? I can't remember what the name of the hotel at this time is, but it was there forever. And we had the management came up into the office one day. The office manager came up, or the person who was running the building came up and handed us this piece of paper with a ticket on it and said, you can't park in your normal parking spot tomorrow through Friday. It was a Tuesday, so Wednesday through Friday, because they're using the hotel next door. They're going to film something. And I can't talk anything more about it, but they're going to film something and blah, blah, blah. So everyone, all excited, got to the office really early the next day. Lo and behold, trucks had rolled up, bunch of lighting outside, rain machines, like all this other stuff. It's a big production. And through the grapevine of some of the retail stores downstairs, we learned that maybe the Rolling Stones were going to be there because they were in town for a concert. And toward the middle of the afternoon, a couple of tour buses showed up, and it was Mick Jagger and Keith Richards and Charlie Watts. I don't know where Ronnie Wood was, but they were all in their buses on this street. So the street closed off end to end. We are in the middle with our office right next to the hotel, and they are walking in and out. They were going up and down the street, shopping at the stores. They bought everybody that was in this little lunch cafe. They bought everybody that was there. And Mick Jagger had a gentleman with him. Like, I don't know if he's like like maybe an assistant.
Yeah, assistant,
like an assistant with him. And that assistant was well dressed and, you know, had that beautiful British accent that we all think of, very sophisticated, right? And he came around and talked to all of us, and, you know, Mick is a really nice guy, and blah, 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 blah. And
that sounded German, the way that
you did it? Yeah. My accent game is off today. I can't just turn it on and off. So maybe he was German. I don't know. Now that I listen to the recording, maybe he was German. So Mick and Keith, at some point, at the behest of the guy who was his, you know, manservant or whatever he was.
Yeah, I like
they
manservant.
came over and they introduced themselves, and we all stood for a minute or two. And at the time, I was smoking cigarettes, and so was Keith. And, you know, we shared a cigarette in the same circle of people and talked and talked and talked. And some people in the office were offered backstage passes by some of the road crew. And I didn't have an opportunity to go at the time, but it was interesting. Mick Jagger's a very small person. I'll just let you know.
Yeah, they're all
very
like
small.
super tiny. And I mean, Mick is in shape. He does hours and hours of training, I think, every day. I mean,
those guys are never going to die.
Amazing. I know. They're still going.
But I mean, when you're that rich and you have everything going for you, there's no reason to die, right?
Yeah,
I mean, just keep the party going.
Personal chefs, personal drug dealers, personal whatever. Yeah. Manservants.
You know, Richard says he's off the heroin, but I just don't believe it. I don't believe you do heroin for 70 years of your life and then all of a sudden cut it out one day. Wasn't he the guy who wrote in his book that a doctor told him that if he stopped doing there was a better chance of him dying if he stopped doing heroin than if he kept doing heroin? He had it in his blood for so long.
Yeah. No, I know. It's have you read his book?
I haven't read his book,
really
but
good. It's long.
Yeah.
But it is really good and
Is it
very,
long?
very interesting. Yeah, and I was just listening to because I just read Flea's autobiography. It's called Acid for the Children, which he says does not mean that he thinks people should give acid to their children, but that's the title of the book. And while they were talking, it's a Rick Rubin podcast, and I was listening to that, and they were saying that Keith Richards had like a team of researchers try and go back and figure out his memories. Yeah. They're like, he had like a whole set of people that had to like go back and research.
Trying to piece back his own memories?
His memories, yes.
She was blonde, about 20 years old. I don't remember exactly. I was probably 62 in Cincinnati in 1986. She had really nice tits. Go find her. Tell her to write down exactly how big my wang wang was.
So that was
while you're at it, do you have any extra Percocet?
Yeah, I'm like, that actually makes sense. like, why would you remember like every little detail? Because the book was really good and very much in detail. And so when I heard that today,
I'm going to go back and read it.
Okay, that makes sense. I also need a team of researchers to go back and think about my memories over the past 20 years.
I want a team of research to erase some of my memories. That's what I want. Can you make me forget?
Oh, I've noticed it too when I think about things. I'm like, that happened during this year. That happened during this year. No, that did not. But
no, yeah, I'm at at this age, like I'm starting to. I'm not as spry and sharp as I used to be. Like I forget names and places and dates, and I mean, I was never very good at that stuff anyway. It's coronavirus. It's all made up by Bill Gates, man. What the fuck you talking about? It's not the coronavirus. It's Bill Gates
erased your memory.
Did you watch Love Is Blind?
I did. That was my homework. That was my
homework.
What
a shit show.
By the way, thanks for assigning 11 hours of homework.
Hey, listen, did you have anything else to do? Like, did I give you something you couldn't accomplish?
No, Jeff wasn't very happy about it. He was like, oh, God, what are you watching?
He didn't like it? He didn't get into it? It wasn't for him?
It wasn't for him. And it really
so
wasn't
good.
for me the first couple of episodes. I was like, this seems very Bachelor-like. And I'm not a big fan of The Bachelor. I was years and years ago, but I stopped watching it. Side note, my 88-year-old grandfather loves The Bachelor.
Astrid started watching it a couple years ago, and I cannot fucking stand it, but it's like a train wreck.
If you watch the first one, you're hooked. Because then you just have to know. You're like,
absolutely.
Well, what is happening with these people? And that kind of thing. So, for the first couple of episodes of Love Is Blind, I was like, oh no. I was kind of like doing some other stuff as I was watching it. But then they get home.
They get out into the wild.
They get to the
and then
world.
Shit gets real.
Yes.
And it is brilliantly cast. I mean, they do such a good job
gosh,
casting that. Now, who knows if it's scripted or not? I mean, we just don't know. But it is like brilliantly cast.
It is.
And it is so. If these people are real, and this is not a scripted show, and these are not actors, which I have no idea if they are, because I always think that about reality television, just because I know how the industry works, right?
Yeah.
Ever since Laguna Beach, I won't be fooled again.
Laguna
I won't be fooled again.
I loved that show.
Which is back on and more boring than ever. But I mean, if this is real and these are not actors, then some of these people have to be horribly embarrassed by their behavior.
Horribly.
What was that girl's name? The girl who was running around getting drunk every 5 seconds? Lauren? I can't remember her name.
Amber.
Amber was the shit show that
she was the cray-cray.
It was interesting. She didn't have. Turned out she was homeless.
I was watching that. I was like, she's really laying it on Bennett or whatever that guy's name was. She was like, she's like hanging out in the kitchen. She's like, at one point I was homeless, and also now I have massive debt and I have no job. So, would you like to still marry me?
I have a horrible heroin habit.
The guy's like,
and herpes.
He's like, there's some things to think about. And then it just shows him like downing beers.
Listen, if you spend more than 15 minutes with that girl, you'd be having to do shots too. And it really surprised me that, listen, Bennett was a jackass almost the entire time.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Playing the field.
Right? But I couldn't believe that even if Bennett was a jackass, I thought he was a rather intelligent human being, or at least had some intelligence, and I couldn't believe that he chose to get married to that girl. That seemed to me to be insane. Like, she was too much.
Well, that was the second surprise. Was the whole wedding situation, which I have to point this out. Giannini, or whatever her name is, Gigi. She's
Venezuelan.
So, I know. And she, said that she was going to do this whole, she said, yes, yes, absolutely, I'm going to marry you, whatever. And then her guy, which I can't remember, was it Kevin?
Kevin.
His name. Wow. Yeah, he says no. And then she takes off. Spoiler alert. He says no.
Yeah, everyone's seen it at this point.
So she takes off. And I thought this was a very curious little fact, was that, they go wedding dress shopping and they have these dresses, which are like so beautiful. And it's their dress of their dreams. She goes taking off down first of all, it's raining.
Yeah, it was crazy.
During the wedding.
She takes off running down the hall.
And she falls when she's outside, like in the forest, and gets like a big old mud stain, which curiously disappeared later on when she went back to
I didn't notice that. Really?
Mm-hmm. I was like, she fell, and there was a big old mud stain, and now she doesn't have it anymore.
Well, Astrid noticed something. They all picked wedding dresses that they never ended up in.
Yeah.
So they were all dress shopping, and then they were crying, and they found the dress.
Yeah.
And then none of them had the same dress when they showed up. Yeah. Listen, obviously it's edited really well for entertainment purposes, right?
People,
I don't think anybody...
The families that were there are like, what are we doing?
You brought a white guy home?
Yeah. He goes, have you ever been in a room full of black people? The guy was like, yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
He's like, I want to win your trust.
Listen,
really
he's a cool
funny.
cat. That guy was a cool cat. Like, he played it cool the entire time.
He was very even keeled.
Yeah.
And they're still married. I watched the reunion.
Yeah, we watched it. Astrid keeps up with them on Instagram or whatever, and apparently Kevin and Gigi, they're still trying to work it out. They still have Instagram pictures together.
They're back together, and Amber and Bennett are together. The sad part, Jessica, that was the one who kept getting drunk. She was like
Jessica,
down in red wine.
Yeah.
And had to keep apologizing, which reminded me of myself like 10 years ago. I was like, I feel for you, girl.
I hear you, girl. Alcoholics unite. Woohoo! She rather embarrassed herself on the show, and that's really the one that I was thinking of specifically, is because Jessica. She really was a shit show.
Well, she was all upset that she didn't choose Bennett, or she didn't get Bennett.
She was all upset, and then she just was drinking her woes away. And you know what? To be honest with you, like, we've all been through those moments, right? We've all had it where we had nights or days or whatever that we wish we could have taken back.
Sure.
And that poor girl.
I don't remember those.
You know, my favorite thing. That's the good news. Maybe you can hire a team of researchers to put your memories back together.
That's what I'm thinking.
You know, my favorite part of these shows is the titles that these people give each other, for like the producers give them for work.
I noticed that. It was like, Gigi was just business owner. I was like, well,
I'm Bob.
That's
I'm a businessman.
Broad. Like, next time I go to a party, I want somebody to just say, hey, what do you do? And I'll say, I'm in business.
I'm in business. I'm in the business industry.
I do business.
Hi, Brian Green, businessman. Nice to meet you.
What kind of business? Business industry.
Yeah, the business industry. I'm gonna put on my
Business.
on my business card. It's gonna say, "We do business."
Yeah, that's what I want to say too. I'm
Welcome to the 25th business convention.
I'm a businesswoman.
Nice to meet you. What business are you in? I'm in the business of business.
The business.
Or content creator. That was the other one that I thought was interesting.
Yeah,
content creator. But then she had all these she had this little home studio, and I was like, webcam girl.
Yeah. No. I thought the same thing. Because when they were in the pods, which, oh my God, I was dying too. Because they kept, when they were back in the real world, they kept going, remember when we were in the pod? Remember me like I was in the pod? I was like, stop talking about the pod. This is crazy. But yeah, the content creator, when they were in the pods, I was like, content creator? Well, that sounds kind of cool. I didn't know what that meant. But then when they got back to her apartment, it was like an easel or what are those things that is the retractable screens
thing.
And a couple of cameras, a couple of Nikon cameras set up. I was like, oh, content creator,
webcam girl.
Yeah,
interesting. I'm interested to see if they do another. I mean, they must be rushing to do Love Is Blind season 2 because it was such a phenomenon when it came out, and we can talk about the ending because it's out of the Netflix top 10. Listen, if it's out of the Netflix top 10,
it's fair game.
When we talk about shows, there's spoiler alerts all over. So just remember that. If it's in the top 10, I'll spare you. But if it's out of the top 10, you're done. And I did watch your van program, your van in.
I gave you an hour's worth of homework.
You gave me an hour's worth of homework, and it was an hour well spent. I mean, listen, those are some of the readiest rednecks I have ever met in my entire life. It was hilarious, but they're all lovable. They laugh at themselves, and that's the good news. They don't take themselves too seriously. They know that this is quite frankly a joke, right? I mean, they're driving around in their fucking rape mobiles, parking in empty parking lots for weeks at a time.
Jeff and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I was like, because at first I turned it on and I was thinking vanning, because they have those tricked out RV shows.
Yeah.
Different things like that. And so I was like, let me see this van show. I thought maybe it meant VW vans.
Sure.
Something like that.
There were a few VW vans. There were a few.
But for the most part, it was 78.
It was 1977 Chevy conversion vans. Yeah. And they had beds in the back.
Yeah.
And they had, fish bowls. And one guy, the whole van was dedicated to MacGyver or something.
Yeah.
Well, I met James Dean. What's his name? I met James Dean Anderson about 26 years ago at a Star Trek convention. Don't really know why he was there.
It wasn't Leonard Skinner. It was who's the
guy Allman
that's
Brothers.
There was the Greg Allman one, but then there was also the other one that was who's the guy that's the pro gun
Ted Nugent. Ted Nugent.
Yeah.
Well, Ted Nugent wasn't supposed to show up at the concert, but there was about 15 of us, and so I suppose he decided a big enough audience to come on by. He showed us how to shoot a squirrel from 22 miles away. Real nice guy. So I decided to dedicate my life to him. Our Lord and Savior, Ted Nugent. Who paints Ted Nugent on the side of their van?
I especially love the guy that was super skinny, and because everybody else there is pretty much overweight and out of shape.
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
one guy was super skinny and was.
But we all know those guys, those old hippies who they don't eat; they just smoke weed and take acid.
Yeah.
It's 6 days later they forgot to eat, and they survive on that. They survive that way. What this reminded me of? This reminded me of some people in my circle, right? It's just the time has passed, the centuries have moved on, and we go to these big parties, or we've been to these big parties. I mean, huge parties, right? People get together for the weekend or whatever. And some folks are still there kicking it after all of these years, right? The glory days are behind them, but they just want to watch the young ones have fun. And I mean, these van-ins, I read about this on Wikipedia, these van-ins, these conventions. Van-ins, they used to get tens of thousands of people in one location at these motor speedways.
People were getting naked. People were
doing everything.
Drinking,
I mean, doing drugs, having fun, t-shirt contests.
Pools.
Yeah. And now they're in their 70s and things just don't look so good anymore.
And now they need a team of
now
researchers.
Yeah.
They need a team of researchers to remember their memories.
You know, every movie when, you know, it's like at first they're showing all the 70s and there's all these topless girls doing wet t-shirt contests. And I'm like, sweet, this is going to be an interesting movie. And then you see the kind of participants that are taking care of the movies. And I'm like, please don't have a wet t-shirt
now
contest,
we have
please.
50. Now we have 50 people. So,
well, things have been a little different for the last 6 decades or so.
we're still hoping.
Yeah.
Still hoping to see that.
Our club used to be 7,000 strong. Now we got about 6.5 members.
Yeah.
Jimmy's got no legs, so we count him as a half.
That was the other guy that was on there. He was in the wheelchair. And he had like the tricked out band. Yeah, no, I mean, good for him. But I mean, he was like the star of the show. He got the spinning, the wheels. And
it just reminds me, honestly, like back on a serious note, it just reminds me that no matter who you are in life, right? Human connection, the connection with something in common and the ability to get together and share and whatever love it is or passion that you have is super important. And that's kind of what makes this whole commercial break, this like real life commercial break, kind of makes it a little bit more devastating. I know it's something that we have to do. I feel it in my heart. We have to do it. Slow it down, stop it, keep people safe, keep people out of trouble. But that part of it, like there are no ban-ins happening during the coronavirus. At least I hope there's no ban-ins happening during the coronavirus.
They might be
Unless
the ones
they
that
stay
are
in the van.
protesting. They might be the ones that are protesting in Austin.
Well, I don't know. They seem like a reasonable group of human beings, even though they were a little, their hobby is a little dated. They seem like they're a reasonable group of people. So, all right. Well, listen. You and Jeff take care of yourselves. You guys stay in. And we'll see you next week.
Sounds good. See you next week. Cheers.
Bye,
Email us at thecommercialbee@gmail.com. Find us and follow us on Facebook and Instagram at The Commercial Break. New episodes drop every Wednesday. We can be found on Spotify, iHeartMedia, Apple, Google, and all major podcast providers. The Commercial Break is a great middleweight production. Written and produced by Brian Green. Co-hosted by Chrissy Hoadley.